Hello everyone, and welcome to Behind the Bulletin. Today, we invite you to dive into a story that has sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Showbiz shock: Soo-hyun and Kim Ji-won are reportedly being abandoned by tvN, igniting a fierce and rapidly escalating controversy. What led to this sudden fallout? And why has it triggered such intense public reaction? Stay with us as we unravel the details, the rumors, and the unanswered questions behind this explosive situation. Let's follow the story right now. It began with a silence that felt too deliberate to be normal. At first, nobody wanted to believe it. Not because the industry was kind, but because it was predictable: contracts, schedules, promos, red carpets. Stars rose, stars fell. But the machine always explained itself with a press release and a polite smile. This time, there was no smile. There wasn't even a statement. Just absence. A casting lineup poster went up on a tvN-affiliated page for a highly anticipated project. Fans swarmed the image within seconds, zooming in on every name, every credit line, every tiny block of text. And then the comment section started vibrating with one shared question that read like a warning: where are they? Kim Soo-hyun's name, gone. Kim Ji-won's name, gone. Wasn't an obvious deletion. No messy removed stamp. No crossed-out title. The names were simply not there, as if they had never been part of the conversation at all. And in entertainment, erasure is louder than rejection. Within an hour, the first whispers turned into a storm. Screenshots flew like debris in a hurricane, older posts that mentioned them, newer posts that didn't. People began building timelines in real time, stitching together fragments like detectives at a crime scene. A hashtag climbed steadily, then suddenly shot upward as if someone lit a fuse: abandoned. Then came the second hit, harder, colder, and impossible to ignore. A scheduled tvN teaser upload that fans had been waiting for. All week went live, and the thumbnail looked wrong. Not low quality. Not miscolored. Wrong in the way a familiar face is wrong when it's missing from a family photo. The teaser featured sweeping music, cinematic cuts, dramatic lighting, and yet it carefully avoided two people who had allegedly been at the center of the hype. The editing felt surgical. Every angle, every frame, every cut screamed the same message: they are not part of this story anymore. By evening, entertainment reporters were circling the situation like sharks sensing blood in water. Calls were made. Messages were sent. People reached out to agencies, producers, insiders. And what came back, if anything came back at all, was a refusal that felt suspiciously coordinated. No comment. Currently confirming. Hard to say. Please refrain from speculation. Refrain from speculation, on the internet, was like telling a wildfire to relax. Fans didn't just panic. They fractured. Some insisted it was a misunderstanding. Others called it a boycott. The boldest accused tvN of blacklisting. A word that carries history and fear. Every theory sounded plausible when the official truth refused to arrive. Then, at 11:28 p.m., a single reporter posted a sentence that landed like a slap across the entire fandom. tvN may have distanced itself from the two actors amid a behind-the-scenes dispute. Distanced. A polite word. A soft word. A word that hides sharp edges. The reactions exploded instantly: rage, disbelief, heartbreak, mockery, panic. People demanded proof. Others demanded accountability. And somewhere in the middle, the most unsettling question took shape: if the network truly abandoned them, why? Because in the entertainment world, networks don't abandon value without a reason, or without pressure. The next morning, the atmosphere shifted from gossip to crisis. A tvN building entrance that normally saw casual foot traffic suddenly drew clusters of reporters. Is waited like traps. Security tightened. Staff walked faster. Executives avoided eye contact. The air smelled like damage control. Kim Soo-hyun's agency released a brief statement, carefully worded, emotionally empty, but sharp in its restraint: we are aware of circulating claims and are currently reviewing the situation. It did not deny. It did not confirm. It simply acknowledged the fire. Ji-won's side stayed silent. That silence was gasoline. A rumor surfaced, then multiplied, about a conflict tied to contract terms. Another suggested creative differences. Another hinted at sponsor pressure. And then the ugliest version appeared. The one that spreads fastest because it's the darkest, Someone powerful demanded they be removed. No one could verify it, but everyone could feel it. By afternoon, the controversy had a heartbeat of its own. Online communities lit up with insider posts. Some believable, some absurd. All feeding the same hungry monster. Fans posted compilation videos of the actors' past work, their achievements, their public goodwill, collecting evidence that they didn't deserve whatever was happening now. Critics pushed back, calling it overreaction, calling it manipulation, fan hysteria. And then came the moment that made the entire thing feel less like messy speculation and more like a deliberate operation. A tvN-related post that had been shared widely, one that previously included tags tied to both Kim Soo-hyun and Kim Ji-won, was quietly edited. No announcement. No correction. Just a clean removal of their names from the tags. Someone had reached into the system and peeled them out. That's when the fear took on a new shape. Not are they out, but who has the power to erase them so cleanly? The outrage escalated into a full-blown digital siege. Calls for boycotts erupted. Sponsors were tagged. Producers were named. People demanded a statement from tvN, not a vague "we'll look into it," but a clear explanation. And still, the network said nothing. Then, just as the chaos peaked, a notice appeared late that night. tvN will hold a press briefing regarding recent controversies. Press briefing. Not clarification, not apology. Briefing, like a command. Like a military update. Like a warning that the truth would be packaged and distributed in controlled portions. Fans and reporters braced for impact. When a machine finally speaks after a long silence, it's rarely to confess. It's usually to control. The press briefing room was bright in the wrong way, too white. Too clean, too sterile. It made everyone's faces look sharp. Slightly guilty. The podium stood centered under harsh lighting. Symbol of authority that felt increasingly fragile as the noise outside grew louder. Reporters filled the front rows with devices ready. Hungry, jaws tight. No one was smiling. Wasn't a premiere. This wasn't a celebration. This was an interrogation wearing a suit. A tvN representative stepped onto the stage with a calm expression that felt practiced. The kind of calm people wear when they're standing over a mess they were pretending isn't theirs. "Thank you for attending," the representative began. "We understand there has been significant public interest regarding recent discussions." Discussions. Another soft word. Another attempt to shrink a wildfire into a candle flame. The representative continued. "We would like to clarify that tvN has not boycotted any individual. Not boycotted. Carefully chosen. Because the public wasn't just accusing them of boycotting. They were accusing them of abandoning." A reporter raised a hand, voice sharp. "Why were Kim Soo-hyun and Kim Ji-won removed from materials?" The representative's eyes flickered, just once, before settling back into controlled neutrality. "We do not comment on internal planning documents," they said. "Some promotional materials are subject to change." Subject to change. Like people were fonts on a poster. Another reporter pressed. "Are they still involved in the project?" The representative paused, too long, and that pause told the room more than words ever could. Then, casting and project details are not finalized until official announcement. A collective exhale, half anger, half disbelief. Official announcement. The phrase was a shield. Protected the network from saying what everyone already suspected: something had already happened. And they didn't want to admit it. In the room, the internet exploded again, people clipping the pause, replaying it, analyzing facial muscle movements like it was a courtroom trial. Controversy grew louder, not quieter. Because the briefing had offered no clarity, only evasions. And then, the story took a sudden, sharper turn. An entertainment outlet published a claim that an internal dispute had escalated behind the scenes, something involving negotiations and conditions tied to public image, sponsor concerns, and editorial control. The image was vague enough to stay legally safe, but specific enough to ignite panic. Fans interpreted it as blacklisting. Critics called it sensationalism. Industry watchers simply nodded with that familiar, exhausted look, of course. Still no direct confirmation. Still no real answers. And that's when Kim Ji-won's side finally moved. A short statement appeared, clean, measured, but with a quiet fury underneath. "We reject misleading narratives. We will respond through appropriate channels if necessary." Necessary. The words implied a threat without stating one. They suggested this wasn't just PR drama, it was heading toward legal territory. Then Kim Soo-hyun's agency followed with something stronger. We request that broadcasters and media outlets refrain from distributing unverified claims and from using our artist's name for speculative controversy. The public heard something else inside that sentence. We are cornered, and we are tired. The controversy hit its loudest peak when an industry insider, anonymous, but backed by a track record, posted a single line that spread like a shockwave. This isn't about talent. About control. That line changed everything. Because the public could tolerate ordinary disputes. They could tolerate scheduling conflicts. They could tolerate creative differences. All suggested power games, pressure, leverage. Silent punishments disguised as normal business decisions. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about whether tvN had abandoned 2 stars. It was about whether the industry could erase people without consequence. Protests didn't happen on streets. They happened in algorithms. People unsubscribed. They flooded sponsor pages. They demanded transparency. They compiled evidence. Archived posts, saved edits. Timestamps. Every deletion became proof. Every silence became suspicious. Then, in the middle of the chaos, a new report surfaced, quiet at first, then roaring louder. The project at the center of the controversy was under review internally due to public sentiment. Public sentiment. The phrase sounded like democracy. But the truth felt uglier. Backlash had become expensive. And finally, tvN moved again. A second statement was issued. Longer this time, more careful. More apologetic without actually admitting wrongdoing. We acknowledge the concerns expressed by viewers. We'll communicate more clearly moving forward. More clearly moving forward. Not clearly now. But even in that weak attempt at calm, the damage had already been done. The audience didn't just want clarity. They wanted accountability. They wanted to know whether 2 actors had been pushed out, erased, discarded, whether by conflict, pressure, or something darker. By the time the dust began to settle, one grim truth remained. The shock wasn't only the rumored abandonment. It was how quickly a system could shift from rating stars to pretending they never existed. How easily narratives could be edited. How comfortably powerful institutions could hide behind polite words while real people took the damage. In the end, the fiercest controversy wasn't the rumor itself. It was the silence around it. Because silence, in showbiz, is never empty. It's a decision. As the controversy continues to ripple through the industry, thing has become unmistakably clear. This was never just a fleeting showbiz rumor. It was a moment that exposed the fragile balance between power, image, and silence in the entertainment world. Labeled as abandonment, distancing, or internal adjustment. The absence of clear answers has spoken louder than any official statement. Kim Soo-hyun and Kim Ji-won found themselves at the center of a storm, not because of scandal, but because of what happens when influence outweighs transparency, and when decisions are made behind closed doors. Thank you sincerely for staying with us until the very end. Your time, attention, and engagement are deeply appreciated. This story made you question the narratives behind the headlines or reflect on how easily reputations can be reshaped. We invite you to continue following Behind the Bulletin for more in-depth analysis and stories that go beyond surface-level news. Until next time, thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of the conversation.